All right. So what's new between last week and this week since we talked?
Hmm.
Saving the planet, off to, to fixing it all.
Yeah, I've mm, I don't know. I can't think
Just
of
steady on the
anything.
course, huh? That's all right. Well, we
Yeah,
will.
steady as she goes.
Absolutely. Well, that makes sense. It doesn't always have to be new to be exciting and good. So we'll dive into some of the latest projects. What clients are you working with right now?
Well, we're working with Boston University right now, and we are enrolling
Awesome.
in our 8-week online Zero Waste Business Academy.
All right. Welcome in to Vision Pros Live with Jackson Callum. I'm your show host. We will be doing interviews for visionary entrepreneurs and guest leaders who are building fantastic visions out there. What's up, Vision Pros, and welcome in to another episode of Vision Pros Live. I'm your show host, Jackson Callum, founder and CEO of First Class Business, and I'm excited to be bringing Stacy Savage on for our next episode. We just took a short break. We're right back at it. Why? Because we know how valuable these interviews are for those who are able to tune in and listen. So I know you won't be able to catch them all, but the segments that we grab, the opportunities to discuss these principles of growth and leadership and things that are needed in the world is just such a phenomenal opportunity that we've decided to not just double down, but to go all out and have more of these shows more regularly because of the amazing impact that it's had with so many people's lives. So with that said, let's talk about some of these sponsorships of choice. So Capsho and Icon Maker Live. I'm going to feature Capsho first. Capsho is what we utilize to create our show notes. So if you were to go to Vision Pros Live, it's please drop the link for me, Jaime. I think it's go.firstclassbusiness.io/whatever. I'm not going to finish it. You can click on the link and get there easier. So go to Vision Pros Live. And once you're there, you go to some of those episodes, you'll see what Capsho's we're using Capsho for. So Capsho is the fastest way to repurpose and market your expert content. Go, Jaime, go, for pulling this on my screen. And you'll notice on the right-hand side, it shows a screenshot of what you get. But basically, you upload your episodes or your video content, your audio content of any type, and it will basically pull that information, combine it with this AI, which serves like a content creation machine for you. And you just click buttons to be able to get access to LinkedIn, Facebook posts, LinkedIn articles, Twitter articles, Twitter posts, sound bites. There's so many different elements that it's able to give you so that you don't have to create your content from scratch. Why should you? You just spoke it into a microphone. You might as well capture it, have an AI recirculate and put that together in a way that allows you to touch more people's lives. It's super cool. And I can honestly just thank Capsho and my team. I've never touched this page you're looking at for Cheryl Plouffe. It allows us to be able to do things more effectively. And so if you think about it, if you have somebody who's doing your content for you and you don't have a system like this, it's kind of like giving them a toothbrush and saying, go ahead and scrub the floors, right? And no, we've now got a system, basically like a Roomba, going around and doing that for us. And it empowers a team to be much better at what they do and focus on higher level tasks at hand with moving our podcast forward. So we love Capsho very much. I'm very grateful for it. iconmakerlive.com is coming up this coming week as well. On Wednesday of next week, you'll be able to attend this event. And as you look at the page Jaime is about to pull up and go through it, you'll see what it's all about. It's about teaching people how to launch their podcasts profitably. We're talking about moving towards 7 figures as podcasters. I'm on that journey and path myself. I'm not there yet. I want people to know that, be aware of that. I'm not shy about it. We're not there. We look forward to being there. It's one of the reasons why we got involved with this project. I'm also grateful and honored that they allowed us to recreate the copy for the pages itself. I look forward to working more closely with Tom Matson and Cheryl. As we talked this morning about the lineup of activities of what's going on, he just kind of blew my mind yet again with different people that they're going to be hosting and putting on stage to help people drive forward successful podcasts. So if you're in the podcast world or you're considering getting into it, and really, if you're an authority figure and you're building your credibility, this is one of the absolute best ways to do so and create an environment where you not only got a community plugged into it, but you've got a microphone where people are coming in and hearing you out and trying to gain value from you. And how do I do that? Well, in my case, for my podcast, it's by bringing on other leaders who know way more than I do about the subject matter at hand. So with that said, we're going to shift gears one more time. Grateful for my fingers don't quite rise to it yet, but the water project. The water project is a opportunity to get involved with an entity that's providing clean drinking water for those in need. Please, if you're hearing this for the first time, go check out the Water Project. Go give $1. Go see how cool the experience is, because they'll keep you up to date with the project fulfillment and what happens with that. It's one of my favorite organizations to support because of the transparency that exists with that. And Jaime will be dropping a link in the show notes for you guys to be able to access one of those projects that needs funded now. And just imagine being those children that you see right there and having to drink water that looks like lemonade that's not lemonade at all, and what it could do to your health. You have the opportunity to impact that and help them get what they need, as do I, which is why we're constantly talking about this, promoting this, and contributing to it. So we're going to bring on a special guest named Stacy Savage. She has a program designed to help drive zero waste, to help companies commit to contributing in ways that will hopefully help this planet, and in massively impactful ways that sometimes we just don't know how to articulate, we don't know how to think of. But whether it's for the sake of the ozone or for the sake of the animals or the people affected by the deterioration taking place within our planet, I'm just excited to bring her on and hear her perspective and talk to her, because I grew up in a very conservative home where that wasn't thought of, very, very much. My dad's in the oil field, so was my grandpa. So, we've done our fair share of contributing to both probably the problem and the solutions throughout life. And I think most of us could make more space to at least understand the subject better, if not see how we can make an impact, because it does truly matter. And we'll be looking at that from different angles today. So Stacy, thank you so much for being here today. And man, I'm just really happy to have your expertise on this subject, because I don't know a whole lot about it.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And we will definitely get into it.
For sure, definitely. So talk to me first about this. Who should be listening in? Why should they listen to you as an expert? And what are they going to get out of today's show, do you think?
So the first part of the question, who should listen? I think these are universal concepts that can be practiced at home, at work, and at play, where you recreate. And this is all about keeping valuable materials out of the landfill. And this is about saving landfill space as well. So the question went away.
That's okay. I'll pull back up to you. My bad. I took the cheat sheet to highlight your name and your title, but you're right. So, why should we be listening to you specifically? And then what are we going to talk about today? You covered that one. So what's your expertise in all this?
So I'm an expert in zero waste, and that is globally defined as a 90% waste reduction from landfills and incinerators. And we do that through a hierarchy of materials management. And if you think about an inverted triangle, landfill and incineration is the very, very, very bottom tip of the triangle. And that is actually a disposal method, but they're, whenever you think about the 3 R's, everybody's heard of the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle, but there's actually more like 9. There's like 9 R's in there, that businesses can utilize for their materials within their business structure. And this goes for college campuses. This goes for nonprofit agencies. This goes for local government agencies as well. These are all key concepts that can be implemented, because this is all driven by habit change through our decision making at the bin systems within our business infrastructure, right? So wherever the bins are in your hallway, on your floor, at the elevator, within the foyer area, where are your bins located, and are they accessible? Are they convenient? Do people know how to use them? And a lot of times the answer is no. So
Right.
about educating people on how to properly handle their materials, because we are the waste generators.
Mhm.
We're kind of the crux, if you will, because if you think about it, how did you get that product in your hand?
Yeah.
Somebody made it. It came from the earth, a resource, whether it's petroleum, or wood, or bauxite for aluminum. Something was mined and refined and produced and made into a product, transported, and ended up on your store shelf. You bought it, and it's probably going to break in about 6 months, and you have to go buy a new one.
Right.
So how did that material end up in your hands? And you're the kind of the crux of handling that material responsibly at the bin system. So we normally, the ideal measure would be having a 3-bin system of trash, recycling, and food waste composting. But a lot
Mhm.
of services aren't available like that in some areas across the
Yeah.
U.S. So if you don't have the services, or the infrastructure locally, then you're not going to be able to offer that at your business, or to
Right.
your internal employees. So it's all about driving the habit change. And you and I, as the materials generators, are the crux about what happens to the materials. Are they getting into the right bin? And then you have to think about who's handling those materials downstream at the recycling plant or the composting facility or the landfill. It just
Absolutely.
depends on who's doing what with the materials that are in their hands.
One of the things that struck me most regarding our audience, about our conversation pre-show, was about how you came from a grassroots effort of door knocking, and maybe you didn't come from it, but it sounded like there was an opportunity where you were kind of coming at the companies and saying, "Hey, this is
Mhm.
your fault. You need to fix this," and there's really no benefit to you, but make sure that you're playing by these rules, or else. Or that's what a lot of people imagine when
Mhm.
they think of protests or people who want to create this change. But when we talked, you talked about how your plans, your strategy has shifted, or actually empowers the brand to see the opportunity at hand with moving towards zero waste. But you have a deep respect for how much impact they want to create, and you're aware of the challenges they face as business owners and leadership, trying to divide their time between how do I provide for my family, how do I provide for the world,
Mhm.
and how do I also make sure to keep it all clean as I do so. That really struck me. So I'd love to know, what's your vision for those that you're serving in terms of the businesses that you work with?
My vision is habit change, and it really starts with the key education piece of it, and helping. Let's think about what is a company. It's made up of people, and
Mhm.
the company that is made up of those people are usually the people that work there in the local community. They live there. They have homes, and their places of worship, and their local parks, and their school, and these are places that they cherish. And so they don't want to pollute their own neighborhood. So it's important to have these habit changes at work and at home, um, in order to normalize the the zero waste concepts, as well. Because if you're mishandling these materials, um, then we're losing jobs in the local community as well. A lot of times, these materials, if they're too contaminated because they weren't handled properly, a lot of times, if it's 25-30% too contaminated, the whole load is going to go to landfill, because it's just too costly
Mm.
to separate all that material, and to re-clean it and to process it. So the hauler and the processor are just going to send it to the dump. So if we, as the generators of these materials, are not handling these uh, materials as a valuable commodity, there's no such thing as waste. ever.
Mm.
We live on a circular planet with finite resources, and there's no such place as away. You can't throw something away because it always ends up downstream, or in the downstream economy. So it ends up somewhere. Maybe that's in our oceans. Maybe that's in the near the school, where a landfill butts up against a school. So there's no such place as a way. We have to handle these materials in a more sustainable manner, and keeping those materials local in the local community helps drive those green jobs with dignity. Well-paying green jobs with dignity is a key driver economically, and that's going to happen with the habit change that you and I, as individuals, can exhibit.
I love that. So why is that important? Why is all this important to you specifically, and why should it be important to the leaders that you work with, the brands considering to bring somebody like yourself in?
Yeah, just like you, I grew up, Southeast Texas, Louisiana border, and the
Yeehaw.
Golden Triangle area, near the Gulf Coast. So that's the oil and gas mecca of the country. And my parents worked at oil and gas refineries for a collective 75 years. I still have cousins, aunts, uncles that work at these refineries. So in a nutshell, my family's complicit in the pollution of these brown, hazy skies and rotten egg smells, but you can't blame them because it's the only lucrative business or industry in the area that will allow you to send 3 kids to college, which is, I have 2
Pre-internet,
sisters.
for sure.
Pre-internet. I've got 2 sisters. I'm the classic middle child and a Cajun on top of that. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of defiance against these institutions that that I've instilled upon myself through my education and through me being able to have these lived experiences, and knowing that family members have died of weird cancers, people that are very impactful in my life. So it's really important to me to help the businesses from the inside out, to help them, not harm them, because again, these are people that make up these businesses. They're run by people just like you and me. And if they don't know better, they don't know that they don't know better.
Right.
So we have to do the education. We've got to help them understand that, going green as a business is no longer a request.
Yeah.
It is a demand of investors, shareholders, consumers, your employees as well. So I think it's important for them to get ahead of the curve, and it's really important for them to get the assistance from experts in the field like myself.
I love that you highlight that. It is one of those things that the world is adopting, in stride right now. And so you mentioned some very key components. And if you're irresponsibly not listening, right? It's not even about the matter of like, if this matters to you personally, it should, if it matters to those who you serve. And we need to take time to hear people out on that. So I try not to get into science because I don't know the science, but I do know the feeling, of what it means to keep a clean house. I do know the feeling of what it means to, I do know what germs are. I know what it means to when somebody washes their hands properly before leaving the bathroom, and what it means when somebody doesn't. Like those things, they strike me. You mentioned the placement of bins. I'm gonna rant a little bit on this one. My health teacher in high school said, if you go into a restaurant, he taught us how to wash our hands, experiment style, like where everybody got to try, and then at the end he showed you exactly how you were all getting it wrong and getting each other's germs. And you grab the door handle with the napkin, the paper towel as you go out, and there's no trash bin right there. Then throw the towel on the ground, right where they should be putting a waste bin. As a form of peaceful protest that this is not acceptable. Means every single worker that just finished, peeing or whatever else, just walked out of that bathroom having touched everybody else's hands that didn't wash their hands. And I was like, we're like, oh, this is awful. And he's like, so anyway, that's instilled. So everywhere I go, I see that lack of truth. If I see lack of traction, I do the same thing. I'm not trying to be a mean person, but that's one example. What are some overlooked examples in the world, that seem common sense to perhaps you, but that maybe others are missing that we can improve, in
Well,
our workplaces?
I'd say that one that you just mentioned is the
Yeah.
prime example. Is there's no bin there, but you know what? It shouldn't be a trash bin. It should be a composting bin, because paper towels for hand
Ooh.
washing is not recyclable. And it shouldn't go to landfill because it's compostable. So there should be, if you
Mm.
have composting services in your area, like an industrial composting facility that can come and pick up your food waste and your hand towels, absolutely, there should be a composting bin right next to it. It should be green. There should be signage all over the place of what can and
The
can't
right
go into that
signage, right?
bin. And it should be, hand towels only, used hand towels only. And, that way the janitorial crew at the end of the night that comes and cleans the office space can pull that and put it into the composting bin outdoors. And
Yes.
that way it gets to the correct facility. But yeah, that's a prime example right there. And I think another kind of trend that businesses are doing, that are going kind of the zero waste route, is they are taking all of the small trash cans and recycling bins out of individual offices and desks, and they're doing larger bins out in the hallway, so that people have to get up, walk over, and they have to decide what goes where.
Hmm.
And you can't just, yeah, if you're at if you've got like a side desk recycling bin with a little trash can on it or whatnot, then you can handle those materials however you want. But if you're out in the open in a public hallway, where
Ah,
those, yeah, so you're under a little bit more
system of
scrutiny.
accountability.
It is all about accountability, because people under their desk can do what they want. And the janitorial staff is not going to come through and start separating, you know, desk side containers.
Materials, right?
Yeah. But what they will do is take items that are more properly sorted in the bigger containers in a more public area, that have the proper signage and the color coding, black for trash, blue for recycling, green for your composting, and having the signage with graphics in English and Spanish, and making sure that everybody understands what goes where. An Apple
Mm.
core in any language is an Apple core, right? So if you've got the graphics on there, people understand what goes where.
Right.
It's just an example. So yeah, that bin placement is really important, and so is the getting a little bit more scrutiny about your habits and having some more public accountability among your workers.
Yeah, no, I love that. And that's, there's some other trends, and maybe I'm shooting off in left field here, but I'm thinking, I imagine that if we have, I don't know, 100 employees in a room, they've all got their own trash can, there's quite the expense as well on the trash bin itself that each person has,
Mhm.
especially if they get broken once in a while. Right. There's an additional cost there. And then all the bags. You got a new janitor who decides to just throw all the bags away every day instead of every week, right? The cost on that as well, would likely be higher. Am I wrong about that? Would it be more
No,
costly to have
you're
the
spot on,
convention?
because those bags can be pretty costly. And not only that, it's more labor costs, because it takes the janitors a lot more
Mm,
time to go through
yes.
in each individual office. So you're more labor expenses there. But also, janitorial crews have extremely high turnover rate. And to get them properly trained up and to stick around for a
Yeah.
while, um, it's a thankless job. Even our trash haulers that come up and down our street or services our business, those are thankless jobs, but they're absolutely vital to a clean society, right? And how we operate in public and within our office and workspaces. So, you know, it, if you're making it more difficult for the janitorial staff to keep the materials properly separated, then you're going to get mixed bags out in the outdoor dumpsters. They're going to be all jumbled. They're not going to be separated correctly,
Right.
because they're just going to start chucking, because they need to get back inside, right? They need to get back to the next floor. And they've only got a set amount of time to do X, Y, and Z. And if you're making it difficult, then there's going to be less care in keeping the materials separate. And these
Yes.
bags make sure to go to trash. These bags make sure to go to the recycling bin, and then these bags go to the composting bin. You're going to get cross-contamination because it becomes an urgency of their time. Right. They're feeling the urgency of needing to get back in to service the rest of the building.
Correct. Okay. And the other benefit that I would say comes along with this too is the byproduct of having a trash can that everybody has to kind of walk to is you're encouraging people to, I know it shouldn't be called exercise, but move, their body, get up from their workstation. And while that, I think some people will be like, oh my gosh, that's counterproductive. That's going to slow me down. Like, whoa, you're like addicted to, like, you need to chill. Like, there's nothing wrong with going to a trash can. In fact, there's everything right with getting up from what you're doing, going and changing, like thinking about something else for a minute and then coming back to work. So right. I think a lot of times we create these conveniences that are just ridiculous. And we don't realize they inhibit our own personal performance, let alone contribute, as you mentioned, to ways that hurt, that create, I don't want to call it waste now. You said there's no waste, but create waste.
Materials.
It's not the waste of the material, but you waste your time, you waste the energy, you waste the company's resources in the process. So that's neat. What's a powerful lesson that other visionaries can learn from your experience in terms of having launched this company, that it seems like this is probably a very hard company to launch?
Yeah, we launched in 2013, so we're coming up on our 11-year anniversary.
That's amazing.
And but I think that we were a little early to market because the term zero waste was not very well known among mid-size and small businesses. The big guys really knew it was coming. They could see it from a mile away, right? Mm-hmm. So that's when they started getting their facility certifications for true zero waste through the U.S. Green Building Council, kind of like LEED for energy and water, mm-hmm. but true is for zero waste and waste reduction. So they started getting these their facilities certified and implementing, the changes that were necessary. But I really think the mid-level mid-size and small-size businesses were really caught off guard. And especially when local city ordinances started to come into play. And so I'm here in the Austin area, and, in 2010, the city of Austin passed the Universal Recycling Ordinance, and the URO states that all commercial properties in the city limits of Austin must divert recycling to at least 50%. And if you have a food permit, a couple of years later, this part of the ordinance rolled out. If you have a food permit, you also had to reduce food waste by a dramatic, amount. And that could be through composting, but it could also be through, better and higher uses like food waste reduction and reuse and repurposing and donations to like farmers and ranchers, or donations to local food banks, legal food donations, where you get a tax write-off. So there's, these local ordinances started rearing their heads, and businesses were like, oh my gosh, what is this? I've never even heard the term zero waste. And so, we decided then, okay, this is coming. These companies are understanding that they can't just keep throwing everything into a landfill bin and be done with it. You have to be a lot more
intentional.
Curious about it, intentional about it, but also tracking it. You got to track your materials and your waste stream, and train your staff to use these programs correctly. So I would say the thing to do for these businesses is to get ahead of the curve, and to go ahead and start implementing these processes. Yep. And as far as starting my business and what other visionaries can learn,
I mean, I can pick a few things. Go ahead. I've got a few that I want to follow up on.
When we first started, it was really hard to gain traction because of the lack of knowledge of the market, the
Welcome
industries.
to, in marketing, this is called a blue ocean. And it's
Yeah.
something that some marketers say is the best thing ever. You want to be in a blue ocean. No, you do not. It is a hard
It's
thing. You have
hard.
a very big heart if you
Yeah.
stick with a blue ocean process.
Well, I knew it was coming down the pike, and I was like, okay, we need to position ourselves as the go-to zero waste company in Texas. We have over 200 landfills across our state. We have a lot of work to do, and there's a lot of room for improvement. So I said, I'm going to be the green gal of Texas, and and then I became the Texas trash talker, right?
That's awesome.
So, that's all I do all day is I talk trash. But as far as for visionaries, it was hard for us to gain traction because businesses just didn't know where to begin, or if they had a directive from their company, they weren't given any funding or enforcement mechanisms, or it was a high priority, but it just kept getting pushed back to the back burner because of the daily overwhelm of their normal business operations. So, that's whenever I decided, I was like, okay, it's time for me to design a consulting firm that can help these businesses. And the first contract we got was with Nestle Purina. And let me tell you, I had no idea what I was doing. And I got two of my mentors in
like Nestle as in the chocolate.
as in St. Louis, Missouri, under the arch, Nestle Purina Pet Care, the largest employee of St. Louis.
Wow.
They reached out and said, our CEO has given us a zero waste mandate. We have no idea where to start. Can you help? And I was like, oh no, I just started my business. But what I did was say yes to the contract, and I figured it out later.
Good for you.
But once I said yes to the contract, and then I had my team, of zero waste elders who have been in this space for 40 years, and they're the ones that help set the global standards and definitions of what zero waste actually is. I brought them on my team and I said, let's do it. On paper, I was leading the entire process. In the background, I was learning, I was scrambling to learn and to pull in, all the spreadsheets and the analysis and the waste audit and how to do X, Y, Z and all these things. And then I would calmly present our findings. But it was the steepest learning curve I had ever had. But it's kind of what gave me the invigoration, the push and the confidence to move forward to go get these other big contracts like Dell and Apple and AT&T and Kohler. So
how did they find you? Or how did you find them?
They found me. They just fell in my lap. Some of it was, word of mouth referral, business to business kind of thing, or, my mentors that I'd used in previous contracts brought me in. And, I would help them, or they would say, hey, my schedule's too packed. Can you take on this company and help them with their true certification, or do a waste audit for them, or do a training?
Okay. You downplay it, but those things that you did, you were playing nice in the sandbox with others. Mm-hmm. You were actively working with other people. You were seeing the opportunity of the win-win at all times, whether it was your contract or their contract. You were available, and you're obviously a doer. You're a hustler. You get things done, and you don't see problems. You see opportunities for solutions. So all of those little characteristics are gonna be easy to overlook. Like any visionary listening in right now, that's what wins the big contracts, is that go get it done attitude and the ability to say, I'm gonna make this happen. So well done.
And I think one key piece of it was that I told myself, especially on our first contract, I'm here to learn, and I'm going to keep my mouth shut so I can learn from the masters, because they're the ones who set up the entire program.
Yeah.
They're the ones that I need to learn from. And I'm so grateful to have them on my team, because they could have easily just said no. And then I would have lost that contract to be like, sorry, I can't handle this on my own. Or I would have had to seek out other people who may have not had as much experience. So I was able to learn from the best and to take their strategies and implement them into my business. The way I was able to do that was to check my ego.
Mm-hmm.
because I was
Absolutely.
like, I'm up and coming. I know what I'm doing. No, I didn't. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know how to run a business. I had to deal with legal, taxes, financial, social media, everything, all these hats that I was wearing. And then I have to fly to another state and learn how to actually do my business.
Yes.
And so it was very eye-opening, very humbling, but it was such a strong collaboration between the four of us, the three of us, because the end goal was to get the results for the client. And if I wasn't able to check my ego, then I would have, vomited nonsense all over this project whenever I needed to sit down and zip it. And
Mhm.
that's hard for me to do.
Nah. Well, you did it well. I mean, it got you to some of the biggest clients in the world. So that's pretty awesome. And you know what? There's one thing, if I died today, and I could make one impact in terms of zero waste, and you've already alluded to it, and it would be my invitation, Stacy, to improve the signage, improve the instructions. If we can optimize the signage, and I'll show a little example on my screen here. You mentioned it, and if your company takes full control of improving this, like this bin system over here on the right hand side,
Yeah.
like I'm not going to use it. I don't even know what those pictures are, like I'm not, like that's just scary. And this one is a little bit clearer, right? But
Mhm.
I do optimizations for a living. Like that's what I do, is
Yeah.
optimize everything I can. And so if the consumer doesn't get it, well, like, maybe this is clear enough,
Mhm.
pear should represent a banana as well, but do people really get that? I don't know. Like but there's lots of ways to test and make sure that the instructions we're providing are as clear as possible for anybody to take the right
Right.
action without extensive training, right? That's
And
kind of our ultimate
to
goal.
piggyback off of that is every recycling program in every single city is completely different.
Right. Exactly. And then
So,
when you say cities, I mean, we both live
yeah.
around the San Antonio, Austin area, like my recycling program, from Cibolo, the little outskirt of
Mhm.
San Antonio, to Castroville, which I'm not even in. I'm still in San Antonio, but we've got different rules, different laws, different fines, different realities. Does the box go in? Does it not? Do you have to break the box down? Do you not? It's so painfully difficult for both the
Always
leaders
break the box
and
down.
systems. Oh, there you go.
Always break period. Save that space. Yeah, so it's not just the recycling programs through your municipality or your county government, or even if it's a private hauler. I live on the outskirts of Bastrop, right?
Yeah.
And I'm where your kids, lived there for a
Yeah,
couple of years.
yep.
I found out, and I'm not even in the city limits. I'm in the county, and I pay an arm and a leg just to have recycling services out here because it's a little bit more rural, and it's
Mhm.
not as densely packed as the city.
Yeah,
So, I have to walk the talk, of course. So I budget for what I need quarterly in order to pay my recycling pickup bill.
good for you.
So it's not just
So you take
what.
proactive measures that normally people wouldn't even be aware that they can
Yeah.
do. That's,
And I have a
I
side
never
yard.
thought about
I've got
that.
a compost, I've got a spinning compost thing on my side yard too.
Who do you
I
call
all my
911 to figure that out, or
to
um,
figure out.
if you wanted a recycling program and you don't have one?
Oh, usually call the city.
Oh no, I lost you, Stacy. We're on a good part here too. We're solving problems that we often overlook. All right, we'll see if Stacy's internet reconnects soon. As she mentioned, she's in a rural area, so it could be that as soon as she's back in, I'll pull her back up. But this, so happy that she shared with us about those bigger contracts. Like, who can claim that? Like your first client is Nestle. Your first client, one of your first couple clients is Apple and Dell. That's amazing. So, entrepreneurs listening to this, like, go make your connections to reach out to your network. Hi, mate. Stacy is back now. So let's bring her back on. and we'll pick up where we left off. So you can contact the city. Is that what you were going to say,
Sorry about
Stacy?
that.
All right.
Yeah, you can contact the city or.
Oh man, there it goes again. So something's happened with that internet. But again, I'll keep going in the meantime. And again, just feel free to keep taking notes on the processes at hand. If you're trying to get your business established and you're not working with your network, your community, and you're not showing up. I heard her talk about reaching out to the best of the best, being willing to include them on the contract. Did she give the bulk of the contract away? Did she keep it? We don't know those little details, but are you creating win-win situations to where people who are great at what they do want to work with you? You should be if you're not. All right, let's see if you're back.
Yes.
All right, Stacey.
Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. So contact the city. How do you do that?
Through like a 311, or you can usually find them online, the city's website, the utilities department, or it's usually the solid waste services department. And it's important to find out what your local hauler will take. So if they come and pick up your recycling bin, make sure that, that they recycle glass. And if they don't put glass in your bin. So that's what I mean by different programs are completely different city by city, or, government by government, or hauler by hauler, and processor by processor. So it's important to find out what they take, what they don't take, and then act accordingly.
Jaime, do me a favor. Pull up some B-roll, if you will, of landfills in the U.S. And let's get an idea of what this looks like. Or ocean trash too, like just again, just a visually, or trash in corporate offices too. There's lots of different opportunities to showcase what we're talking about and the gravity of it. Do you typically go to companies in dire needs, or is it like an everyday company that you wouldn't expect to have, that you would expect to have perfect waste management systems? Who do you normally work with?
I work with the companies. Obviously we've been working with larger companies since our inception, but I really think my target market is more the mid-level businesses who may not be able to afford employing a sustainability operations manager or a sustainability engineer, or have a sustainability team. If they can employ our consulting services, and we can come in and we can train their staff, we can do a waste audit, we can help them find all those money leaks within their business, because we're optimizing their operations, and we're renegotiating their hauler contracts to right size their dumpster space and fill levels and their frequency of pickup. We can provide all these services to get them a dialed in, business specific plan for implementation, and help them implement it as well. So we provide that kind of white glove service.
Do you look at how it financially benefits them and kind of provide them a breakdown of how it impacts their costs and their, go ahead.
If I can look at if I can look at a month's worth of your waste hauler bills, we can usually find about 20% cost savings month to month.
Awesome. Okay. So let me throw some company names out there. So like, is Buc-ee's like the type of level that wouldn't perhaps do it in-house, or do you think they have a sustainability director in-house?
I've got a Buc-ee's less than a mile from me. I can go and knock on their door and find out.
Okay. Would that be like an ideal style of client? What about a Topgolf, or I don't know, what's a chain? Torchy's Tacos, right? They're starting to spread and have quite a few stores throughout throughout Texas.
Well, Torchy's got started in Austin. That means they have to comply with the business recycling and food waste diversion standards of the Universal Recycling Ordinance.
Is that the level and style of mid-level business you're referring to, though?
Yeah, I mean, we can do restaurants, we can do chains, we can do office parks, we can do medical facilities. It's, if you create materials and we can help you divert them from landfill. It's really, but again, we customize your approach because you have to implement it within your industry and you have to implement it within the spot that your business is located. So
Yep.
if that municipality doesn't offer recycling, we probably, can't help you with recyclables. But if you're in an area where there's a local construction and demolition kind of crusher type plant, and you've got those kinds of materials that you need to get rid of, let's connect you, right? Let's find those outward alternative avenues in order to get your materials away from landfill. It may not be municipal recyclables, but it could be other types of materials within your business that aren't the typical recyclable materials. There's a lot of reuse and remanufacturing options around other kind of hard to recycle materials.
All right. Following concept: MNC, MPI. Okay. If we could choose the entities in the world right now, the ideal ones for you that were where you were able to put the minimum necessary change possible to create the maximum possible impact, right? Minimum necessary change for the maximum possible impact. What would what industry, what brand, or what companies?
I would say food permitted businesses would be the biggest impact because about 30 to 40% of the entire US waste stream is food waste when 1 in 7 Americans go hungry.
Okay.
So having that disconnect is an absolute travesty.
Yeah.
Perfectly good food, consumable foods are being landfilled and not donated because businesses still think that they can get sued. And that's not the case. The 1990s, it's not. The 1996 Good Samaritan Act under Bill Clinton gave, legal relief from any business. So they can't be held legally liable if someone gets sick from donated food from their establishment. If it's held to proper time and temperature standards through the state's health department, and it is donated to a food redistribution nonprofit organization that has the food handling, safety and food handling requirements met of their volunteers or employees that do the actual redistribution. So this would be your local food bank or another kind of organization like Keep Austin Fed, which is a good one here in the Austin area. If you keep it to proper time and temperature standards, and if those donations are made in good faith that you are trying to help the community, then you can't be legally sued if somebody happens to get sick. And if you keep a manifest of everything that you've donated and the weight, you can receive a 15% fair market value return on your taxes for what you've donated.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, he's not the president of the United States, but I do look forward to introducing you to Howie Nestel in San Antonio, Sharkmatic Advertising. He is good friends with the San Antonio Food Bank director, as well as the mayor of the city. And he's got some clients that he's worked with that he may be able to have a pretty massive impact with. So I'd love to introduce you. I'll do that after the show. Visionaries, this is what it's all about, is finding those strategic partnerships, collaborations, that because it's the right thing to do, make it happen. And the byproduct of doing the right thing, as Marusha talked about in the last episode, is that there's profits that come from that in many different forms. So if that ends up being of value to you, of course, Stacy, happy to make that introduction and see where it goes. It would be the best thing I could do, to make an immediate impact. And we appreciate you sharing your story today, helping us see, how we could open our minds to contribute better to the cause. And I wish you the best of success as you continue to make a difference in ways that so many of us often overlook.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me. And, I just want to encourage people that we do make a collective difference if everybody is making the small change in their everyday lives. But one thing that we can do is to hold the companies accountable that are making these products and ask them to make them in a more sustainable way with more sustainable products, phase out toxins, and also hold government accountable to enforcing the laws or strengthening the laws that are already on the books.
Awesome. Thank you, Stacy, so much, Vision Pros. You guys have an excellent day. We will see you soon. Everybody take care.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an